We are continuing our lesson on special angle pairs. And just to remind you, we had gone over 4 special angle pairs, the first of which was supplementary angles. These are angles that add together to equal 180 degrees. Very often in the diagram, we'll see them the way we see these, as forming a linear pair and being adjacent angles that form a straight line. But just remember, supplementary angles, 180 degrees. Complementary angles, these are 2 angles that add to equal 90 degrees. They do not have to be adjacent, but many times in the diagram, they will be adjacent. Speaking of adjacent angles, these are 2 angles that are next to each other. They share a ray, they share a common vertex. And vertical angles, you learned about these in earlier grades. They are 2 angles across from each other. They are formed by 2 intersecting lines, and vertical angles will always have the same measure. They will be congruent. So now there's a series of questions that we want you to answer. The first question looks like this. I'm just going to show you the diagram. I'm going to let you know that you are asked to determine the angle formed by the hour hand and the minute hand at exactly 6 o'clock, and you will come up with that answer. And then I'll go over the other questions, and then you can put it on pause and go ahead and answer the questions. Question number 2, we have a right triangle where the measure of angle D is given. Angle E is your right angle, and you have to classify angles D and F as a special angle pair using one of the vocabulary words in this lesson, and then find the measure of angle F in degrees. Question number 3 is another Dutch windmill, and this time we're asking you to find the measure of the angle formed by any 3 consecutive blades. Actually, any 3 consecutive blades form 2 angles. How do we classify those 2 angles? And then question number 4 is a sign of a coffee shop. Some angle information is given, and you have to figure out the missing angles X, Y, and Z from among the choices. Finally, question number 5, we add a second hand into this analog clock, and we're noticing that there are actually 2 angles that we can see there that are formed between the minute hand at the 12, the second hand at the 2, and the hour hand at the 3. Classify those 2 angles. So now put the video on pause, answer the questions, and let's see if we agree. Okay, question number 1. At exactly 6 o'clock, we're going to have a straight angle. The measure of a straight angle is 180 degrees. Question number 2. Because this is a right angle at angle E, and because we have a triangle, we remember from earlier grades the sum of the 3 angles of any triangle is 180. So therefore, D and F will add together to equal 90. Those angles can be classified as complementary. To find the measure of angle F, we subtract 90 minus 65, and we get 25 degrees. Question number 3, we have this Dutch windmill. We look at one blade, then at the next consecutive blade, and the next consecutive blade, and these 2 angles that are formed right there are supplementary. That is the best option because their measures add together to equal 180 degrees. Question number 4. First thing I would do is solve for X. Did you do that also? You could have gone about it another way. I looked here and I recognize that X and 70 form a linear pair. I know that they are supplementary. So to solve for X, I subtracted 180 minus 70, and I got 110 degrees for angle X. Next, I noticed that Y and X are vertical angles. Therefore, they are congruent, and therefore the measure of angle Y is 110 degrees. Finally, to solve for Z, there's a bunch of ways you could do this. I just happen to observe that angles Z and 70 are vertical angles, so they are congruent. So angle Z has a 70-degree measure. And the option that matches these choices is option C. The last question was question number 5. And we'll read the prompt, but then let's see if we agree on how we solved it. The clock shown represents a time of 10 seconds past 3 o'clock. The 3 hands of the clock form 2 angles. Classify the pair of angles formed by the hour hand, minute hand, and second hand. So here's my first angle that I looked at. And then here's my second angle that I looked at. And I know that that's 90 degrees from the 12 to the 3. So these angles, first of all, are adjacent because they share a ray and a vertex. They are complementary because they form a 90-degree angle. So option A is the best answer. The 2 angles are adjacent and complementary.